have to account for, and it opens up so much other stuff for Stills, for Hopkins, for the run game. They look like a different team against Tennessee than they did the week prior to that against Denver. And again, some of that may have been that trap game scenario. We're at home, we're against a bad team, we're against a rookie quarterback. But they came out and looked really good. Now, they let Tennessee get back into that game, so that's a little bit of concern. But for me, the bigger concern is Will Fuller just can't stay on the field, and the offense just doesn't look nearly as explosive when he's off the field. So I think that's the issue for the Texans. But I do think, Eric, that the Chiefs are kind of flying under the radar right now. Everybody's looking at the Patriots and their issues. Everybody has the love fest for Lamar. People have kind of moved on very quickly from Patrick Mahomes, and very quietly, since they had that game where they fell apart in Tennessee, they've beat the Chargers, beaten the Raiders badly, went into Foxborough and beat the Patriots when half of their equipment was in New Jersey, and they had that whole thing going on where they didn't get 35 bags of equipment until about an hour and a half before the game.
Yeah, that's true.
And they destroyed Denver in the snow. And they just picked up Suggs as well off of waivers. So I think that, Eric, they could be a team that could be peaking at the right time in an AFC that's really ripe for the pickings, because as good as the Ravens look, as good as Lamar looked, he looked really good against the Jets. If you look back at a couple games before that, he had not looked as dominant. So he dominated a team in the Jets that, let's face it, they're not really playing for much. They really didn't have an answer. They really didn't look like they wanted to be out in the cold on a Thursday night in Baltimore that much last week. So I do think that while they're the scariest team, we saw last year that teams can throw something at them in a one-game scenario like the Chargers did that could confuse them enough where maybe they can't come back. Maybe they get down enough where they can't. Now, I do think, again, we've talked about it last few weeks, they've added different elements to that team. But I think a team like Kansas City that just has a freak athlete in Tyreek Hill, you're starting to see Hardman do more. Kelsey's still as dominant as ever. Their run game is a bit suspect this year, that really, outside of last year, once Hunt left, it's like they couldn't really find an answer. Williams served them pretty well, but He just wasn't the same. They just haven't been the same team. They haven't been able to come with the replacement. They seem like they're saving McCoy, that they are really managing his reps.
Is that what it is? I couldn't figure it out.
They gave him a game off. I mean, that's what I think that they're trying to do. I think they're trying to manage his reps and just get him to the playoffs. But I do think that there's an element to that team, Eric, where, again, we talk about it with the media all the time. They've moved on very quickly from Patrick Mahomes. Last year was the love fest. Oh my God, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest thing we've ever seen. Now it's Lamar Jackson is the greatest thing we've ever seen. Next year it'll be somebody else. Maybe it's Kyler Murray next year if he takes the big step like we saw Lamar do this year. But I think when that happens, a team like Kansas City very quickly has ripped off 4 wins in a row. And you think about with the playoffs, it's all about the timing and how you're playing and how hot you are going into it. And they're a team right now that looks pretty damn good to me. So how the standings will shake out, will they be able to get a bye? Will they be could they jump the Patriots and be the 2 seed and get a bye? Will they even play wild card weekend? I just think as a whole, I think that the playoffs have a potential. I'm not sure about wild card weekend, but I think the next 2 rounds, with the way that we've seen such a top heavy league, Eric, I think there's some chance for some really, really good matchups that maybe we haven't seen. I think across the board, we could get 4 really, really good games in the divisional round. And we haven't always seen that, because I think this year it's just a league of the have and have nots. It's a lot of double-digit win teams and a lot of really bad teams that need a lot of work. So that's my take on it. I just think that I'm actually more excited now with what the AFC has kind of come up, because it didn't look that good at the beginning of the year when Mahomes was out. Texans were struggling. You had the Patriots that were just beating up on bad teams. And then you even had the Ravens coming off that puzzling loss to the Browns where it took you a couple weeks to really see how good they were. Now all of a sudden you flip it forward to week 16 and you have 4 really good teams, and you can even throw the Bills in for 5. And even this week, Eric, you have the Bills going into New England on Saturday with a chance to really put the screws to New England and potentially put them in a wild card situation. So let me get your take on Bills at the Patriots this week. Can the Bills pull off an upset?
I think they can. I think they're going to give them a hard time. I don't know that they're going to win. And I know that's an easy take to get behind there. It's kind of chalky, but I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to give it a really hard time. I mean, like I just said, they played the Ravens tough. They've played teams really tough. I think the Patriots will just recognize and they'll recognize that they just have too much to play for the first time in a long time, heading into the, trying to get a 15th game under their belt. So I think the Patriots know they've got to win this game to really lock down the division. But at the same time, the Bills are going to know that, hey, if we win this game, we've got the same record as the Patriots do. So I think it's a big deal. I think it's the most intriguing game on the schedule. There's a few other good ones, but I think it's the most intriguing by far, just because we haven't seen the AFC East come down to, this week, in this week 16 in the schedule for a long, long time. So I've got to hand it to the Bills on that. And I like what you're saying about the Chiefs too. And don't get me wrong, I do want to see Patrick Mahomes succeed. And I do want to see Ravens, Chiefs, even the Texans deep into the playoffs for the AFC, because I just think those make for better games, better AFC championship games headed into what could be some pretty intriguing Super Bowl matchups, depending on who comes out of each side.
I mean, when you think about the AFC, where you could have some combination of Lamar Jackson, Brady, Mahomes, Watson in those two games on the divisional weekend, that's pretty good. And then when you spin it forward or spin it to the other side with the NFC, and you could have Brees in there, Rodgers potentially, they could get a bye. So you could have Brees, Rodgers, Garoppolo. You could have Dak in there. I think it's a little uglier when you have Kirk Cousins, but you could throw Russell Wilson into that mix as well. I mean, you've got a chance to have all the elite quarterbacks playing in the divisional round, which is, I think, something where there always seems to be one or two quirky teams that get in where you're like, I really don't know about that team, or you've got luck coming off of an injury or something like that where he's just not the same guy. You've always seemed to got those. This year, now we've still got 2 weeks to go, but we don't seem like we're going to have that situation unless there's an upset in wild card weekend. So there's a couple other games. Eagles, Cowboys. Do your Eagles have any shot to win the NFC East on Sunday?
Nope. I think they lose this game. Yep.
Well, you were much more definitive on that one than your Bills Patriots.
How hard did they have to work last week once again? To beat the Redskins.
Were they playing the 49ers or the Redskins?
I mean, good grief. Yeah. So look, it's going to come down to this weekend. I think the winner takes control of that division, obviously, and then, is forward looking from there. But I don't think the Eagles win this game. And I don't even think they stay within a touchdown, to be honest with you. I think Dallas wins this game by 10 or more.
I think if that same Dallas team comes out where they're like, we're just going to dominate you. Our offensive line is just going to smash you. We're going to run the ball down your throat, and we're going to keep you off balance, and we're going to give Dak easy throws. Yeah, I think it could easily be a touchdown, if not more, victory, because the Eagles, Eric, they're just so beat up right now. They just don't have the weapons that can really do anything. And again, I think that goes back to when we're trying to figure out Wentz and where he's at and how he's maturing and his development. It's hard to tell that when you're playing with guys that probably should be in the XFL at this point. They are guys, they're names that we don't even know. They've gotten really no run on this team. They're probably practice squad guys at best, and you're running them out there as your wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, as an Eagle fan, you have to be, if you see Nelson Aguilar is actually going to be active, you're probably going to be just the happiest person in the world. And we're talking about Nelson Aguilar, who a man made fun of for catching babies out of a window. And that's who you're going to be excited about. That's how bad your situation is. So just by that point alone, and as bad as the Eagles secondary has been, I don't see how you could trust them in that situation. Same goes for the Monday night game, which is Packers at Vikings. You'd like to think that the Vikings have a chance at home, but again, you're putting Kirk Cousins in the spotlight in a primetime game where everything is on the line versus a winning team. And we really don't know what's going on with Dalvin Cook in the shoulder. So any chance the Vikings could sort of upset the apple cart and really make these playoffs interesting if they can knock off the Packers on Monday night.
Yeah, it's a shame that Dalvin took that shoulder injury because Thielen's going to be back. He should be, more productive. I think they're going to have a lot to play for. Obviously, same situation as the Bills and Patriots. You got a 10-4 against a 11-3, I believe. So winner takes a lot of heat, forward in the playoffs here. And I think that, boy, I'd like to think that it's going to be a good game. But once again, I'm just not sure that the Vikings are prepared when it really matters. And I do think it makes a difference that Dalvin Cook could be banged up, but I just don't trust Cousins enough. I know that they're 10-4. I know that I'd have to re-listen to our preview podcast, but I think they've overachieved what I said they would. I was thinking more 9-7 for them. But already at 10-4, they only need one more win to be 11-5 at worst. I mean, that's definitely over where I thought they'd be. So I just clearly don't have that confidence in them. And I just feel like I think the Packers will take it, Justin. I'm torn on it. I really am. I see what you're getting at, but I'm just torn on it. I think the Packers ultimately come out on top. I think they keep the ground game going. I think it's going to be cold. I think they control the game clock, and I think they just have more grit for this type of game than Kirk Cousins does for the Vikings.
I think this game, it all comes down to Dalvin Cook. If he's out there, how healthy is he, and what can he do for this team? I think they can win. If he's healthy, I think they can win the game, just because I don't really trust what the Packers are doing offensively at this point. And Cousins has at least shown he went into Dallas in primetime, got them a big win. He played very well in that game at Seattle. And again, they got banged up in that game, but he's hung in there. He kept them in that game. The defense couldn't do anything in that game. Xavier Rhodes is still getting burned by Seattle receivers at this point. So I think that if Dalvin is healthy, Eric, I like their chances to win, just because, again, the Packers just haven't shown me enough yet. And maybe they're waiting for this game, and they got through their sort of trap game with the Bears, and we're going to see a different Packer team that's going to elevate them to be an actual threat in the NFC. I just haven't seen it at this point. So I'll be watching the injury report to see what Dalvin looks like, if he's going to be a full go, if there's any questions to him, because he's been such a dominant figure for this team this year, and really probably the second best back in the league behind McCaffrey, really at this point, in terms of a guy consistently doing it all year. So, Eric, before we get out of here, I wanted to get your take on a couple other things. Some interesting stories. Your boy AB back at it. He's got some issues on the domestic side. His baby mama running up some shoe bills there on the credit card he was posting. Had a police convoy at his house he was talking about. You had your other guy, Patrick Reed, messing around in the sand, maybe getting himself into a little cheating. His caddy knocking fans out. So what caught your eye this week outside the NFL?
Great questions. AB always catches my eye because on Twitter, I follow him just for the sheer entertainment. And I actually try to troll him just because, I basically don't troll anybody on Twitter, but I definitely troll him because he is an absolute clown. And if you just watch the bipolar ups and downs of his Twitter account, it's actually comical, and you feel bad for the guy almost, because you have those twisted emotions where you, at one point, like I said last week, you almost want to hate the guy because he's so annoying. And then on the other side of the coin, you want to feel bad for him because he's clearly got mental problems. I don't know any other, and it's not funny. It's not a joke. Mental problems aren't something to laugh about, but I legit think that this guy has mental problems. I think he's, whether it's the CTE, whether it's the multiple concussions, I think he's bipolar, because the stuff that he puts out in public on Twitter and Instagram, that's just the stuff that's out in public. I mean, can you imagine what he's like in private? So I just think that he's lost his mind. I don't know if he knows which way is up. Another guy that's lost his mind is Patrick Reed. Look, I wanted to like the guy for a long time because he's a fiery American golfer. And anytime you get into team competition, he's one of the only Americans that seems to have the drama and the heart and the drive to be fierce when it comes to Ryder Cup and President's Cup. And you don't get that from the American side a lot. And to be honest, you do from the Europeans, and the internationals. You get a lot more team camaraderie than you do with the Americans. But Patrick Reed has that Patriot pride, but yet I can't stand behind him when he's cheating. I can't. I mean, Justin, you and I golf, and, we don't play well. We have fun and this and that, but we're not going to go out there and cheat. And so I just can't even fathom a guy on the PGA Tour who takes 2 practice swings and swipes away sand from the bunker to create a better life for himself. And not only did he do that, but then he blames it on the camera angle, or, just tries to justify it. He lost all my respect at that point. And then, he's got a rogue caddy that's like pushing and shoving fans because he's getting some heat from the crowd in Australia. Well, dude, golfers don't put up with cheating. It's a gentleman's game. It's